What's your sign? What's your sign, baby? What's your sign? What's your sign?
Welcome to What's Your Sign? I'm Julia Loken.
I'm Stevie Goldstein.
I'm Lisa Chanou.
And today we are joined by a very special guest. She is the host of the Business Witch podcast. She has a course by the same name and is a feminist, intersectional, mission-driven coach helping business witches and mystical minds everywhere. Give it up for Cara Kovacs.
That was such a great introduction. Thank you. I very much enjoyed that. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Julia's really good at introductions. I will say, like, that is, you know how that Sag can gas up any
fanning the flames, baby.
Guest.
I felt like it was a Libra rising thing, to be honest. I was like, that was so complimentary. I want to bat my eyelashes at you.
Either they're sextiling and I was like, they're sextiling, they're gassing each other and fanning the flames of everyone else around me. I hope.
What a gift.
How are you? Yeah, welcome.
What is we're peek behind the curtain. We're flying high off new moon times. I know this will be posted a little bit later, but I want to, people know about timestamps. What has been your astro life of late?
I mean, I have Venus is retrograding through my first house. And Stevie knows this. I on an impulse was like, maybe I should pierce my nose. And funnily enough, the hole that I had pierced in it 10 years ago when I was in college was still open. And they were like, we'll put an earring right in it. So I feel like it was very Venus retrograde in the first house to re-get a nose ring that I didn't really have to pierce.
Yes.
Secret holes.
I was like, that's best case scenario.
They were like, I'm sorry, are you just shopping for a nose ring?
Which the markup on nose rings is insane. I just have to say, it's like a baby earring. I know it's real gold, but it probably takes $25 to manufacture, and the markup is ridiculous.
It's because you're on site at the, they know that you came in there to get it and you're not leaving. Odds are without it. I think I found secret holes during a Mercury retrograde. I have to look back at which Mercury. I found a bunch of DIY piercings I did all up and down my ear, and they were all open, which I didn't know. And I have a cartilage earring again after years of it not being a thing for me.
Wow.
Explore your holes during retrogrades is the real message.
I hope that's
certain holes. Let's leave the pee hole out of this.
Oh yeah. I mean,
just be mindful. Okay. Be careful.
I wasn't expecting to go into holes so quickly, but
hey,
here we are.
That's what's your sign, baby.
Just down a different kind of rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yes. We're always going down a hole. I love it. I feel like I feel like this new moon has been just, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, and apologies if you've had a absolute shit week, but I feel like people just have been in kind of just better moods, or it's been better than expected for a lot of people.
You know what's been funny too? This week, it happened to me twice. I went to see Regina Spektor, one of the best concerts I've been to. She was amazing. But as I was walking into the stadium, or the amphitheater or whatever it's called, I was like, I'm going to run into somebody I know. I wonder who it is. And then sitting behind me at the show was my mom's best friend's daughter, directly behind me. Whoa. And then 2 days later, I went to see Les Mis with my partner. And I was like, I'm going to run into somebody I know. There's no way that's going to happen again. All of this was an internal process. And 2 seconds later, I was standing in front of this guy in the neighborhood that I run into all the time. But it just happened twice in 2 days. And I had a psychic inkling about it. And then there it was.
Well, maybe it's because we're still, and I know this will be out in your season of Virgo, but I do think there's something in the Leo sunshininess of just like, isn't that life? You know, like there's something very like, ain't that life? Just you go out and wow, there's people out there, and not in like a coincidence and magic can't happen. But I think that of course, like we're out and wild, and like it'd be weird not to. So I think even opening your mind to letting people from your past or people you might know or in periphery in is also a way to also magnetize them in further. That was very stoner boner, but I hope something of that made sense.
That feeling of like, if I'm feeling this, then someone else is probably feeling this too. And I'm feeling called to go out. I'm feeling in a like more generous mood. And so like, instead of assuming you're the only, not that you're making these assumptions either, but going like, oh yeah, someone else is feeling that way too. And we're meeting together and that's fun.
Before maybe we get to Astro, I think a thing, especially when we first met Cara, which we met through a friend of the pod, Kira. The group chat gets so hard with Cara and Kira. I'm like, met Cara through Kira, the astrology. And I remember, I mean, we've talked about first meeting and coaching, the coaching industry. I know you talk about it a lot on your podcast. So, you know, go over to Cara's podcast and listen to all that. But I'm just curious for maybe anyone who is a mystic person, maybe they do it for recreation or business or both. But like, what is it and what isn't it? And like maybe like very simple terms for people who I know, like I think coaching. Okay, I'll stop talking. But coaching definitely has like a certain irk, and I think we've talked about it. Anyways, floor is yours.
Yeah, I think if anybody who feels like coaching has a certain irk, that's coming from a real place. I think I'll share like a little bit about how I got into it combined with what it is. Like, I think that they weave into each other. I went to grad school for social work. I was at NYU. And I had this realization, I was like 24. Oh, I'm spending $60,000 a year for a job that's going to pay me $45,000 a year. And I live in a city that at that time I was paying $1,700 a month in rent, which was astronomical to a 24-year-old. And I was just like, holy shit, this like math does not add up. Like, I'm going to be paying off student debt and living below the poverty line to like do this job for the next several decades. And I dropped out of grad school because of it. Cause I was just like, I can't afford to be a social worker. Now you can have a private practice and like, you can continue to build revenue in that way. But for me, the math just didn't add up. And I have a stellium in Virgo in my second house. I like making money. I also like buying whatever I want. Like, for me, money is the tool. Freedom is like the goal, to just not have to feel stressed about that kind of thing. And so coaching was an industry that there's a big promise of wealth accumulation that I think is actually a false promise, because if you look at the statistics, less than 1% of coaches make more than 200K a year. But if you like scroll through your Instagram feed and you follow coaches, people really like brag about, I made 200K in my first 6 months as a coach. And like, that irk for me is like, do you even ethically know how to poke around in somebody's subconscious mind to the point that you're 6 months into your practice and that's how much money you're making? Like, what is your training? And so that's where we get into the problem of like, coaching to me is a behavioral science. And for me, it's rooted in coming from a therapy background and having invested in a lot of spaces where we're looking at psychology and sociology and social justice and like intersectional feminism and all of these things. And I see coaching not dissimilarly to psychotherapy in the impact of what can happen when you're helping someone process the most intimate details of their life and make empowered choices based on finding clarity in those kinds of spaces. And that requires training. And like, that should be like, duh. But I think that there is an internet culture of, I did a breathwork facilitator training one time over a weekend, and I'm a Reiki level 1. And like, now I'm going to heal you of your entire lineage's trauma. And like, people leave those containers harmed. It happens a lot. And I really see my place in the industry. It's kind of twofold. One, rectifying that harm, like looking at, okay, how is coaching a behavioral science tool and how can we help people in the way that this entire industry was actually invented to help people? Like, that is the point. And then also, for me, the like business component of it, I see as a tool for looking at larger social constructs. So like white men control 98% of capital wealth. None of us are surprised by that, I'm sure. But if you look at who controls the purse strings and like what gets invested in, it's why we have like lots of different kinds of Viagra, but like not a lot of studies on menopause. And I imagine that a lot of the people who listen to this podcast and that everyone who's in the Zoom room right now, that we're all on the same page of like, we agree about how we need social change, and we agree about equity, and we agree about deconstructing patriarchy. But like, if we're not actively accumulating wealth, like we're in an echo chamber where we all agree with each other, but resources are not fairly distributed. And so as a business coach, I help people make more money so that we can invest in the kinds of social structures that we want to see. And I see money as the tool that is most needed to kind of confront some of the astrological transits we'll be looking at in the second half of this decade. And I just love business. Like I love talking about it. I think my chart really speaks to that. And I really like helping people who were like me, who really wanted to do good in the world and wanted to help people and like wanted to work in a specific industry and then found themselves being like, oh, I hate this, or I can't afford this. And to realize you don't have to do it that way just because that's how society told you that you should do it. And so I teach healers and business owners who have a witchy proclivity, because it's just my favorite place and space to play in, how to make more money.
Whoa.
Hell yeah.
Do you ever have people come to you that aren't interested in the spiritual woo, astrology, witch aspect of business? And how do you handle that?
Yeah. I mean, I've coached a lot of dads and I think that
non-warlocky dads, it sounds like.
Well, it's funny. By the time like we're done coaching, they're like, "Can I ask you some about this astrology stuff?" Like, because I meet them in like if I do a DEI training or like a personal development weekend retreat, like I meet people, and the way that I think about coaching is when you find somebody whose work resonates for you and there is trust there, like you hire them even if you don't self-identify as a witch. So those people roll through my community all the time, but like I'm just as obsessed with astrology as y'all are. So I really like having that as a center part of my personal work.
Wow. I've just seen a whole new like group of like dads intrigued by astrology, but like don't know where. Maybe that's the next course. It's like, has your dad been thinking about dipping their toes in their natal chart, but don't know where to begin? Well,
I think a lot of people feel that way, where they just like truly don't even wouldn't know how to like approach even getting into astrology. I know that there's like the internet and you can search it, but I feel like that's like overwhelming and too much information for people. But they can tell that people are into it and like want to know what the deal is. I really like how you talk about money as the tool and a wealth accumulation in a way that is, I think, empowering and is used for dismantling power structures and wealth distribution and equity and all that. And I think that there is like so much there's the kind of generalized like, oh, if you're doing something that you care about, you shouldn't also need to be paid for it. This kind of idea that floats around for people, where it's like, oh, you're already doing something that is intrinsically valuable or intrinsically helpful. How do you like this thing of that? But I think there also is like, I think it's hard to say that you like want to make money or want to have things or something when you are certainly when you're in this kind of space. But also I think just there's such like money is bad. And like, how do we kind of push back on that in a way that can be empowering? Because I think it has been in a lot of ways, but also you're speaking to like who is in control of that. And that also, like, it's not necessarily money itself. It is how it is being wielded to disempower people.
Yeah.
And also,
and I think
Julia's, just to go off of that too,
Yeah.
I think just coming back to the woo people that tend to be in your orbit, Cara, too. I mean, that's comes up, I feel like, a lot when I've talked to our listeners or other people who are maybe just starting an astrology business. And it's like, how do you charge for magical information or something that feels like you would just be sharing this with friends or, doing it more of like the traditional witchy, like, no, you just like, there's a reciprocity of like, I don't know, bring me a jar of honey because it's the ancient. I don't like it. I think the commerce of it was not as it is where we're seeing now, with also a year with record inflation and like tons of, look outside your window. Like it's a weird time, probably everywhere right now.
I think.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So a few things I want to say. I think the first is the idea that you should hate the way that you make money seems very unhealthy. Like that, because you need it anyway. So like you like be miserable and then do the things that you actually like, but don't ask for compensation. Like that's an interesting belief that I would coach somebody on. I also think too, the way that a lot of the coaching industry teaches about money, I have a little bit of a different take on. Like, I think that there's this idea of like manifest and like pray to Venus and leave offerings, and then $1 million will be in your bank account. And I'm like, no, it won't. Like, as somebody who's made $1 million selling one-on-one coaching, like it was a lot harder than that actually. But money is such a vulnerable and intimate topic for people, and it is so deeply loaded with things that have nothing to do with money, like your parents' opinion about what makes somebody responsible, the nuances of what's happening in your relationship with your partner, your personal feelings of safety, cultural nuances about like who has had access to money. Like women couldn't have credit cards, people of color couldn't have credit cards until the 70s. Like that there's so much emotion tied to the topic that I think it makes people feel really uncomfortable to even start to peel that apart, because then you have to go look at things that are super cringe. And simultaneously, like anybody listening who's not grateful for the resources that they do have, that have bought them the things that they do like, it's like, well, what's that about? Like, that's probably also a coaching opportunity. Then the last piece is we literally need capital to fund social movements. Like when we were protesting during 2020, like who bought the masks that had the name of the community organizers on the front? Like who fed the people on the front lines? Like who's disseminating and preparing that information? Who's funding programs that when people are being released from prison because they sold marijuana in the 90s, that is like rehabilitating those people? Like we need money, and to live in the magical universe where we should be in a world where that is not the case. Like I would love to live in that magical universe, but that's spiritual bypassing. Like we're not in that world. And I also don't feel a need to apologize that I like to get $300 facials like I do. And I've built a business model that it's like both are possible. And like, and in my practice, I think it's really important to destigmatize conversations around money, not dissimilarly to like destigmatizing conversations about sex, because the amount of shame and like internalized angst that is happening is honestly like unproductive and unnecessary. And it's not going to get you like an astrology practice that maybe makes up the wage that you were making at a job that you didn't even like going to. Like improve your quality of life, donate to mutual aid, and like heal your family trauma. Like all of that, really valuable reason to do some money work.
Yeah. Well, back to let me share your chart, because we've hinted at it, and then this is for the folks also watching on YouTube. You can get a peek. 1 second. YouTube.com/What's Your Sign podcast. So boom. Also, we're looking back in our OG of Placidus, which doesn't, I think we've looked at yours personally together, Cara, and whole sign, but it doesn't change like dramatically much anyways. And this was a shocking image to see.
Yeah, but
here
seeing
it
it
is.
in Placidus, I'm like, wait, my Jupiter is in the 12th house in sorry. I'm like, this is you for me.
Still straddling that rising here in a cluster. But I mean, you mentioned like second house stuff, and of course, like we go there a lot with money. I'm curious, since you do have, a lot of heavy players here with the Sun, Venus, and Mercury natally retrograde too, which if you want to touch on that as well. I'm curious if like, of course we can go to money, but do you have any other like second house thoughts of like beyond, like maybe beyond actual like material possessions or
Yeah.
I'm curious if second house like dings any bells that you've like experienced having this be your actual chart.
Well, I think having Venus in its fall, I could share a lot of insights that I don't want to, but I'll say that. But also I think something that I do with my clients, the first thing I do with my clients is have them write their values. And I can't take credit for that idea. It comes from Trudy LeBron, who wrote the Anti-Racist Business book, and Brene Brown's book, Dare to Lead. They both have their own individual value exercises. But I think the way that we can measure success, like not actually using profit or not using like number of likes on a post or how many people showed up to your workshop or whatever, is to think about congruence with your values and like building a business that reflects your values. And so, for example, like one of mine is accountability. And, you know, being in a helping profession where you're like working with people who are sharing really, really intimate details about themselves, like sometimes there's a miscommunication, and sometimes like I fuck up. Sometimes, you know, I say something and it's interpreted in a way that I didn't mean it. And so for me, having the value of accountability, especially working, you know, constantly to deprogram my own indoctrination into white supremacy and such, accountability makes me feel safe continuing to do the work, knowing that like, even if I fuck up, it's going to be like rooted in my values, how I handle that. And so I think that that's very like stellium Virgo second house, but I also think it's like a good tip for new business owners to clarify your values. Like, are you launching a program because you want to make money? Or are you launching a program because of the value you want to share with the world? And what's the best way to speak to that really reflects your intention? Doing it the second way actually makes you more money. If you're just centering the money part, there's not a lot for other people to dig into and meet you there.
I think it automatically flagged to me like since you're Leo rising, having your sun be the ruler, but then also having this like trine from this, you know, cap trap that we talk about with Saturn too. Like all those things you were saying made me go like, wait a second, this sounds also very like Saturnian sort of things, right? Of the time, resources, accountability, the checking in, like the duty, right? That we can find a lot of the time with Saturn, that is of course reinforced with Venus and Virgo-y things, but also just had the 2-6 dance or communication line right there just felt very like strong as you were talking about it.
I think having your work for you too is would be like a very kind of like literal interpretation of that something else that just came up for me too. I'm rereading Stephen Forrest's Inner Sky, and he talks about the second house being the place where we like prove ourselves to ourselves, if that makes sense, in that like it is those like tangible skill, like tangible possessions and money stuff, but also where we kind of like where we build self-confidence and show ourselves to be capable there. And I think that definitely fits for you, having that second house telling them and then being able to translate that to other people as well in that sixth house kind of service oriented literal work kind of way of being like, here are the things that I have done. I have taken this, you know, risk myself to have building my own business, relying on my own kind of knowledge, obviously not without studying and all of these other kinds of tools and stuff too. But I think one can't necessarily can't give what they don't have to someone either. And I think being able to have that second house stellium of like proving yourself to yourself is like an invaluable possession that isn't measurable, but is obviously clear in your work.
Gee, thanks.
Oh, I like that. I have some second house people that like Stephen Forrest, yet again, it hits. Fucking Capricorn legend.
I think that even talking about, you know, intersectionality and healing family trauma and all that, I mean, the Pluto in the fourth house is the thing that stands out the most to me. And I think that is really having that home base of being able to start again, see things with fresh eyes, present a different perspective, all of those kind of things.
the concept of safety too, like you said, I
Mhm.
think also is very Pluto fourth, of that being like, you know, survival mechanisms and kind of dealing with those things, but also that's how we like create safety, create personal feelings of home.
You know what's funny about fourth house Scorpio is that my mom is a Scorpio and both of my grandmothers are Scorpios. And then
Whoa.
all of my great grandmothers are Scorpios.
Wait, what?
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I am Cancer moon in the 12th conjunct Chiron. So I feel that very, strongly.
Wait, that's really wild.
I know.
That's cool.
Because I feel very at home, like in Scorpio energy, for all the ways in which people are like, oh, it can sting. And I'm like, no, they are really in it with you. They will fight for you. And like, you can rely on them. And like, I have felt their sting, like, sure, I have, but I very infrequently, like, it's not something that is hurled in people who are self-aware. It's not something that's hurled without due cause.
Mhm.
It's just grandma's love
Yeah.
is what it feels like at the end of the day. It's true. Scorpios, well, I feel like usually their lashings are, you can feel the storm brewing, but when it is a random attack, it is like truly the most random,
Oh yeah.
like lock in like ever. I do think those are more rare, but probably going to also happen to someone they're more comfortable with than like a stranger or something. Like if there are those Scorpio stinger lashings.
I think Scorpio values family too. I mean, a friendship Scorpio could be different. A relationship Scorpio is definitely different than, you know. So it is like depending, I think, on the relationship and how they like what they hold dear. Yeah,
Totally.
Mhm.
Yes, totally. Where I think like, I don't know, on a different sort of Marsy tip, like Aries can go, you know, Julie, I was meaning to tell you this. So we've like me and Pablo have had interactions sometimes with like random weirdos, and Pablo will literally say, I wish Steve was here. Maybe this is also with his Aries moon. Like, cause he would just say what we like are thinking about this
Yes.
random, where I think a Scorpio is like, they don't deserve, I don't know them and they're not, why would I even waste my time if moving on.
It's true. That is true, because I'm Scorpio Mercury and he's Aries Mercury, and that is absolutely the same. Where I'm like, he's saying it, and I'm going like, this person, absolutely not. I would never say it. Not because I'm not thinking it, or because I think it's like wrong to say it, but I'm like, they don't even deserve. They might laugh at this, and I don't want them to even enjoy the sting.
You get no
wow,
free
that's
entertainment.
very Scorpio.
You don't even deserve my venom.
But I like that Pluto in the fourth as that. I think it can get so doomy of like your whole family will die. And it's like, or you could be just radically transforming
resilient
our relationship to our deep root shit.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for everybody listening, we all have complicated family narratives, but I would say that, yeah, I come from a long line of some like very, very Scorpio fourth house theme shit that happened. And I think it definitely helps my work, because we were talking about, I'm doing a free class series, and one of them is how does your childhood trauma show up in your business? And I think a lot of people I work with, they don't even realize that it's like an inner child piece. Like they're afraid of being seen on social media because of an inner child piece, or like they're afraid of success because of an inner child piece. They're afraid of failure because of an inner child piece. And like you don't think about it that much. You're just like, oh, that feels uncomfortable. I don't want to go there, or it feels too scary. I don't want to go there. But it really roots back to like somebody telling you were stupid in the second grade, or like what it meant to be successful or seen or visible. That might not have been safe in your family. And none of us should have our inner children running our business operations. So I actually really enjoy doing that work with people.
Yeah. Well, otherwise they'll start wearing double trench coats and piling on top of each other, and they can't even take out appropriate loans. It'll be a whole mess.
Well, it's a good reminder that everyone has Pluto somewhere in their chart. And I think that those things of like, those things are there, whether you're dealing with them or not. Some people, because of where it's at, have probably had to confront it a little bit more directly and are in more of a working relationship with it, perhaps. But that doesn't mean that you don't have Pluto messing with you or still ruling your life. It's that powerful force that's there, whether we're conscious of it or not. So we might as well figure it out. You know, I like this too, and there's not any way to like fact check this or do this, but I think that coming from that long line of Scorpios and then having this Leo rising and then also being a Virgo feels very appropriate to me, because I think that like Scorpio support almost, because they're square to each other, but almost like facilitates a Leo rising emergence. And then of course the kind of like mythic idea that Virgo and Scorpio were once the same sign, but also a different kind of thing. And a lot of your talk about wanting to kind of heal generational patterns and things like that, and kind of having that self-sufficient, it's like a break in the pattern, but still of the lineage.
Thank you. Everything you're saying to me today feels just like, so I'm really receiving it well.
Good.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Leo rising too, and also we can get to the Cancer moon if we want to big three focus. Yes. But there's a lot to go on. I also stopped screen sharing because I like to see faces, but I can pull it up at any time. But I know we have the charts independently. But I think too that what comes up a lot in astrology and probably in business coaching is purpose, right? I think, I'm sure it's probably been said at some point in this recording, but the nodes, on a very like stereotypical algebraic, like the North Node can point to this purpose that might not be visible to us, or is like we're unlocking it or what have you, where South Node is things that we can really rely on, comes easily. And yeah, I mean, you have these nodes are like right straddling the ascendant and descendant. Just thoughts of living with that. Is there, I felt like when you were talking first up and really explaining what you do, I was just hearing so much Aquarius North Node stuff. Like it was very Aquarian.
I feel that. I feel that so strongly. Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. Yeah. Well, I think I'm all, even in my Aquarian North Node, I'm like, how can I make this valuable to people in their own life as I share about myself, which feels very like the South North Node.
The access.
Yeah, because I would imagine that for a lot of people with Leo rising, like astrology for me was such a healing language of understanding the wound of too muchness, of being like, I'm not too much. I just have Jupiter on my ascendant in Leo. Like, I can't help myself. Like, I don't mean to be like that, And I think that there's something about like Leo rising's bigness and like grandioseness that for some people is like off-putting and for other people is like star quality. But my internal experience of that was like triggering people just by being who I am, and then feeling ashamed that like I should turn it down a notch. Like I should be more quiet is like a childhood, middle school wound that comes up still. And then having this language of astrology is like, no, like you have a big personality. Like it is what it is. But I think what I've found in my work with the Aquarius North Node, I fucking love Aquarius. It's also my 7th house. Like a lot of my best friends and like my partner, like there's like heavy Aquarius placements. And yeah, maybe just like fixed people, because I love me some Taurus too. I just love fixed energy. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like I can rely on you. What I see is what I get. Like you're going to tell me how it is. Like that's how I feel around fixed energy. But my business really started because I had like a full moon club that I was running in New York City that took off during the pandemic. And at that time we were like raising money for mutual aid, and there were like hundreds of people coming every month. And
that was with Colin.
It was with Colin, yeah. And two other facilitators, yes. And also such a great example of Leo rising. I think Colin is a great example of Leo rising, but we had this moment where we were just raising money every month for a different charity. And it really connected me to like the bigger purpose of the work, because when I became a coach, it really was like, can't afford to be a social worker. How can I make more money more quickly? I like this. I want to talk to people about their lives. It wasn't like deeper than that. And I think that the Aquarius North Node and like what we are reckoning with in our society today, and like what we all want to see happen in the world, like is the point of my business ultimately. And I think like that having that space like showed that to me, and I'm really grateful for that. And then the Leo rising becomes a tool of like, yeah, I don't really have a problem like sharing my opinion on the internet, even if people think it's like silly or too much or not for them. Like, okay, be wrong about me, like I don't care, like I'm fine being open, and I don't care what people know about, like I can use that as a force through which I like propagate the message. So it is helpful.
You saying about like middle school stuff, I never thought about middle school or like just elementary, like when you're in school with so many people, but it just made me zoom out and of how much different astrological energy is in the same room with all these kids, but also most likely you're the same, like, you know, the generational, like your Saturn and outer planets, like you're all still like under the same rules, but then there's just, yeah, of course, some people are going to think you're too loud, or this person's too quiet, or this person's, you know, weird, or a booger eater, or all the above, or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. I think I'm just having this is maybe a South Node third house revelation, right? I'm like, wow, like schools is like a lot of energy in there. Like I'm imagining for teachers, like they have to, and any woo based teachers must have to like cleanse or like put a protective, or because that's just a lot of people too, like in your space. And it'd be strange if everybody liked you or us, or, you know.
I think that's like why they structure school the way that they do, is like so teachers can have breaks from groups of whatever, and like lunchtime, like where you know, like
go
PE,
run it out,
like all of those kind of things where it's like, yes, of course we need to be educated on like physical health and education and like nutrition and all of those kind of things, but I think it really is more about like, even if you're not into astrology, like how difficult it is to be in a room like that, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and especially if like the room is like loves to be loud and playful, and like I'm just having flashbacks of like very class clowny 4th grade groups, and then a more serious 6th grade where the math groups, and it's like, oh, we're all in different audiences right now. It feels like an early introduction of having an audience is being in school, and it
or even
fucks us
just
up.
knowing that like I was in my first job when I moved to New York for the grad school that I dropped out of, I was a nanny, and when I did her chart, it gave me so much she's Scorpio rising Taurus, and she's so shy. And it was so hard for her to talk to strangers. And then I looked at her chart and I was like, oh, that's why, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll nurture you out.
I think that the midheaven in Aries is another thing that I think people, because often I think you're told like you should own your own business, or you should be a leader in whatever way. And I think you're such a nice example of how to do that in relationship to other people, because I think people think of that as like being very lonely, and like there is a lot of pressure on you financially. You're not like splitting the burden with people. It's your business. Like it's your, you know, you do have to take some of the criticism as it comes of things that you have created yourself. But I think that like having something where you're actually engaging with others really fits the Aquarius North Node part, and then having it be your thing really fits the midheaven too. Even though they're not like in perfect harmony or whatever, it still works.
I feel quite aggressive on accident often. It's like I think I'm also a manifester, right? So like I had a client, in human design, I had a client once be like, you trigger me in a good way. And I think it's like I'm not meaning to, but I have a closed aura. I go into a space, it like presses on other people's auras. I have like a lot of Jupiter on the ascendant, Aries midheaven, like from Long Island. Like I just can't. You know, it's just like it's a vibe. But I wanted to say to your point too, like I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody. Like, and in a good way. I think that that's the point of astrology, is some people really want to be on a team. And some people want to be in a community that they have created and get to lead. Like I have a group mastermind that it's small group, and like I host people in my home, and I love that, like to get to see them form friendships and collaborate, and that I do get to be surrounded by people. But ultimately, yeah, I'm the one, I have, you know, a couple contracted employees, but like I'm the one that's like making the decisions, and I don't have to ask anybody for it. That's very much in my chart. Like I think it makes sense that I'm like that. For somebody else, they might not be like that. And like entrepreneurship is fucking hard. Like you have to get out of bed and want to do it every day. And especially on the days that you really don't want to do it, but you have to do it anyway. And I think like that doesn't have to be your journey. And we live in such an interesting time right now where you can make a salary from the gig economy in a way that could replace, if you want autonomy but not necessarily entrepreneurship, like this, it's a very flexible universe of ways to like make money, and using your chart to understand how and why the way that you want to do it is supporting who you are as a person and your values and your energetic bandwidth and the way in which you like to relate to people is really valuable. And I like with my clients who want me to, like I reference their charts all the time.
Yeah, I think too with the Aries midheaven, like sometimes every single person, whatever you have, is going to have to do a leadership task at some point in their life, school, work, whatever it is. You're going to be, if you're like doing well, or like if you're good at stuff, people are going to ask you to lead them in some way, or lead a group, or speak at a thing, or do whatever in some way or another. And I know that's a really uncomfortable thing for people. And so I think just looking at those other places in the chart to see what support you have for, say you don't want to be an entrepreneur, but you do have to lead a workshop at work or whatever. What are the things that you can do to support yourself and make, I guess, like those connections, and make it about, it doesn't have to be about you. You can talk about other people. You can talk about concepts, you know?
Well, I mean, the Gemini Mars of it all in the 11th house just felt very like pings activated of, you have to bring in a lot of people. And of course, back to the school subject of like, and not everything's going to fit or be in that way. And related but unrelated example, like I've looked at someone's chart before and it's like, oh my God, all this 10th house, Sun, Mercury, Venus, like it's so up here. Like, what do you do? And they're like, I'm the most afraid introvert that's ever existed. And it's like, that's cool. Maybe it's more writing, you know, like that's cool. Maybe it's like sharing, there's something big being asked of you. Like it'd be hard to not share that, right? Like, because we're here to interpret this and just kind of be these relayers of the information and interpreting that as it is. But it's like if you wanted to go that way, it could be big, or it could be something that's really, you know, gives you some power. I think the authority thing too. I know it kind of hopping around, but
10th house is organizational too, which often is behind the scenes. I mean, talking about, you know, creating mission statements and creating like, you know, promotion like path and all of those things. Those are big things that companies need a person to do. And they're not necessarily something that you're like, hey guys, like, like you could be doing quietly. Yeah.
It's like steering the ship, not being like the mermaid on the front of the ship.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to do that.
I mean, yeah, like I want to be the mermaid.
Who doesn't want to be the mermaid?
Come on. Someone wants to be you want to be the wooden mermaid, or do you want to be the captain, you know, steering the boat, who's again like responsible for the direction, but isn't necessarily the front of the thing. But I think it's direction oriented and mission driven. This is visible, all of these kinds of things.
Well, what I want to share, that I want to protect privacy, but Stevie and I have a mutual friend, and we are both Leo rising, Virgo sun. And she is like such a badass brains operation. I'm not going to share the company, but like brains operation behind increasing the profitability of the company that she works for to like $30 million. And like the way in which she executes the marketing, but it's like, she's not the one in the Instagram graphic advertising the company. She constructed the marketing plan. And we have very similar charts, but like her Scorpio moon, like, you know, there's a different conjunct Pluto. There's like a slight difference. And like, my thing was to be the face. Like, she doesn't have Jupiter on the ascendant. My thing was to be the face of what I was building. And her thing was to build and execute something that has made 30 times more the money that I have, but it was like not her face on it. So it both can, and she loves it. Like, she loves doing it too.
Well, I think
Using
there's
the
like
astrology power.
Yeah.
And yielding it in different ways.
I think there's something, I think maybe it's just like the internet and stuff now too, but I do think there is just that like pressure to be all things at all levels, especially if you're wanting to like do things for yourself or do things that are feeling, again, this kind of idea. And maybe this is me projecting and not anything else that anyone feels, but that idea of like, well, if you want it to be something that it's like, because I'm good at this and because it is fortifying to me, then I kind of have to be the one to put this out there or be the face of it or something like that. And I think that it is always helpful for people to hear that there are roles in places where you can be doing a thing that is absolutely suited to what you're doing. And the more you kind of can lean into, oh, I actually really like these parts, the more you kind of are finding the places where you can really second house, kind of like prove yourself to yourself sort of things. Like in that, where it's like, yeah, it's always going to maybe feel kind of, if it's feeling kind of bad doing it this way, maybe it's because it feels bad doing it that way. And that's okay. It's not because you're not like good at it or whatever. It's because you don't like that part.
Yeah.
As a Taurus, I always love to hear there's roles and places.
Like, people should be I mean, honestly,
Yes.
my business exists because I wanted to be happy doing the work that I was doing, and I wanted part of my happiness was contingent on impact. So like, that doesn't have to be what it is for you. That's the Aquarius North node, right? But like, I think when people use their charts to understand themselves with compassion, not like, oh, I have a stellium in my 7th house, like, oh, this is so hard, whatever. They use it in a damning way, like, that makes me sad. It's not that. Like, having a Cancer moon the 12th, listen, like, it is hard to have Cancer moon the 12th, even though the moon is ruled by Cancer. Like, I find that a difficult placement, and it is like so generative. Like, it's the biggest water placement I have. Like, thank God I have it. It makes me more empathetic. And so to use that information and design a life that empowers you, I mean, that's why my business exists, is to help people do that.
Speaking of learning about yourself through others, shall we play a game?
Yes.
Do it.
Let's game. Cara, have you played Marry Fuck Kill before?
Yes, but for whatever reason, I'm nervous about the speed of my answers doing it in this way.
Oh,
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about
Hey,
it.
don't worry. We got you. This is a supportive environment.
I was gonna say, of all things to not be afraid of, it's the speed of the answers. We
Yeah.
really mull over them quite deeply.
Okay.
But this is a really good group. Maybe we haven't played with these placements before. Of course, just a reminder: Virgo Sun, Cancer Moon, Leo Rising. 2 big 3 twins, because a lot of times with celebrities, we don't always have their birth time. So we're going to play 2 rounds, one with Virgo Sun, Cancer Moon celebs, one with Virgo Sun, Leo Risings.
Oh,
So,
fun.
so let's start with the Virgo Sun, Cancer Moons, and I'm going to include one of your big 3 twins in this. We are going to play with Keanu Reeves, Adam Sandler, and your big 3 twin, Nicole Richie.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Quite the group.
I mean, obviously marry Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hot prized person in this lineup.
I'm going to be thinking about marrying Keanu Reeves for the rest of the day. But the remainder it's difficult, because I think I would. Yeah, I think it's hard, you guys.
I know,
I think that I would have to fuck Adam Sandler and kill Nicole Richie.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I'm doing the same exact, so don't feel weird about it. I know he's a Republican, but
I forget that. Fuck.
But
He's a Republican.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I think he's like an OG.
I
don't think he's Trumpy.
I don't
but
think he's
Republican.
Trumpy.
No, he's not
either,
Trumpy.
But still, it is
Still something to know.
It's pushing me off of marrying him. That's what I'll say. Is I feel like we're politically different. I do want to be part of the Sandler family of film thing.
You want to be in that new
in,
bat mitzvah movie?
I do.
I want to be in Grown Up 17.
Hey, I want to be in the worst one. I don't care which one, like whatever. But
Mrs. Deeds, the sequel.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think that Nicole Richie would be that fun in bed. Like she has very pillow princess vibes to me.
I feel like if it was Mary, I would maybe go towards marry her because like the family connections and the all of the glam and glitz, but I can't give up Keanu in that way. So it just ended up working out that way for me.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said marry Nicole Richie, I just remembered that I watched like an Architectural Digest walkthrough of her home, and she does have a beautiful home.
I love
and
she's
it is
fun.
very
She's
I know
fun.
she is fun. I know
The Simple Life was great.
Her.
I mean,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean
that video of her lighting her hair accidentally on fire when she's blowing out her birthday candles last year, just insane.
Keanu is also from a wealthy family, though. Let's
he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Keanu is like very obviously the hottest, like sexiest, most desirable person in this list of people.
We love who doesn't like. It's like if you're like, oh, I don't like Keanu, it's like you don't have to be contrarian. It's okay. We all like Keanu,
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think we might have a right answer. But then now I'm like, do I want to fuck Adam Sandler? This is the question.
Yeah, no, wait,
because I know it's hard. No, this is all
because I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I do. I mean, I do. I guess.
Dude, Adam Sandler's hot. Or like, I mean, if I could pick the era as well, there's no time is not real in this.
He still looks good.
Yeah,
he still looks good. But I mean, but like, I'm sorry, a Billy Madison, like, destroying me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna concede. I'm gonna consent.
Gonna fuck the Sandman.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
I'm
gonna consent.
Cancer Sun too.
No, he's Virgo.
No,
Sun.
Virgo.
I felt like he would be like fun to have sex with. Like, oh, it would be funny and like kind of playful and like
yeah.
That was the reasoning.
I feel you, and I do think
we know you didn't pick him because he's a Republican.
I'm just remembering now even more like Adam Sandler based like important memories and stuff too, and I'm like, I gotta fuck Sandman. He's given me too much also to be like, no, I'm not gonna fuck Adam Sandler. Come on.
They all for sure have great homes and money.
Yeah.
This is top three. I love everybody in this.
He's
group.
gonna have a like bomb chef that's gonna cook for you in the morning. You're getting the Uber home. Like
they all will.
I think you're gonna get a good treatment.
I mean, you're imagining a very specific set of circumstances around which the fucking happened. That was not how I thought about it when I thought about how I would fuck Adam Sandler, but I wasn't sure how explicit I was allowed to be / how it would impact my business to be like as explicit as I'm potentially thinking about it.
True. Fair enough.
We'll do a Patreon where we just talk about all the things we would do. What
would fuck, marry, kill, and literally how
or different and the different Adam Sandler characters.
Can I just do the how I'm gonna kill the person? I feel like that's more fun for me.
That's I mean, I'm like whichever one is the most vivid for you. Feel free to go into detail.
All right, guys. I think I'm gonna fuck Keanu. He seems sweet, but a little too mellow for a married life. I think I'm gonna marry Nicole Richie, and I would like to fuck Adam Sandler once before I kill him.
Okay. Sure, that could be involved in how you do it.
How I lure him. I mean, Nicole Richie is just again. I love everyone. I don't want to kill anyone. I'd like to fucking marry them all. But
I mean, I would like access to the House of Harlow wardrobe, but I wouldn't fit into any of her
House of
clothes.
Harlow.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, honestly, that is a problem for me.
And my new sister-in-law is Cameron Diaz. Are you fucking kidding me? If the universe is still happening, we're good Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean,
anyways, Some other Virgo Sun Cancer moons that we could have played with are Mark Anthony, Lea Michele, Rachel Bilson, Ryan Felipe, Lisa Vanderpump, Melissa McCarthy, Barry White, Ed Begley Jr., Van Morrison, Stella McCartney, Mystical, and Werner Herzog.
Okay.
It was a fucking
great
list.
yeah.
It's
I
usually not
think
like that.
Lea Michele is also Leo rising.
Oh, she is? I didn't have her
Yeah,
rising.
and I have a deep resonance energetically to like the perception of how people think she's like, people like to talk shit about Lea Michele. They think she's like kind of annoying. My best friend's husband, when I told him we had the same astrology, he was like, yeah, that explains a lot.
That's why we don't hang out with best friends' husbands.
Yeah, I was like, that's why.
Got issues with those.
And then another big three match who we didn't play with, kind of throwback, is Ronaldo, world-renowned Brazilian footballer. So you're in good company. This next group is Virgo Sun Leo risings only. We're going to play with Blake Lively, Nick Jonas, and Tajari P. Henson.
Well, Nick Jonas also has diabetes, and so do I. So that's
okay.
interesting.
Wow.
Love match right there.
Yeah, that is interesting. But I would not want to break up his situation with Priyanka. So
Okay.
Can you imagine that's your pickup line at first? Like, hey, Nick, heard you have diabetes. Guess what? Me too. Or like at a fangirl at a concert, like,
Nick, I have diabetes.
I don't know good, like if there's like diabetes lingo that you could use of like, okay. Okay, I was gonna make like a bad sugar joke. I'm leaving. Okay, we're turning the floor back to Cara.
I mean, that's hard. I don't want to kill any of these people. They don't deserve it.
One's gotta go. Well, I think one could deserve it.
Wait,
Wow.
who?
Wow.
Maybe I'm going. Okay, I'll start. I think I'm gonna kill Nick Jonas. I just feel nothing towards him. I don't know any. I'm not a Joe Bro. I actually do like the new song Waffle House. We can talk about that at a different point in time. Blake Lively is hot, but I just saw like a tweet thread about this. It's like, you know, like the hot girls men say that are like green flags, red flags, and neutral. To me, she's like a red flag crush. I'm like, oh, do you just want someone like hot and I presume a little boring? But who knows? I also didn't watch whatever the big show
Gossip Girl.
Gossip Girl. Yeah, I don't have much ties. Obviously, marrying Tajari, like top person to me in this group. But I'll fuck Blake Lively because I'll be one of those bros that's like, well, we'll bang. And I'll get rid of there's enough Jonas brothers. I hear there's even more that aren't even in the group. So they can rotate them in.
I'm gonna do the same. I think Taraji P. Henson is like a amazing actress. I feel like, and I
loved human.
Yeah, I love her style, and like I don't know. I think that she is like an actor's actor or whatever. Like I think she would do theater and stuff. I think that's cool. And then the reason I'm gonna kill the Jonas brother is because when you said it, I didn't know which one it was, and so then I'm like, then I can't, really be involved. And then who doesn't want to fuck Blake Lively?
She's hot.
I feel like I think I would kill Blake Lively.
Okay.
Like
fair enough.
And not because I want to, but because I've been put in this position where I have to kill one of them. And I love Nick Jonas. He has the diabetes charity I work with.
Hey,
it's called Beyond Type 1. You should donate to them. But I would fuck him. And I think we're all on the same page.
God, the Jonas Brothers really look alike. Like he's the one I thought it was, but he also looks like the other two.
He is, I would say, the best looking and the most talented of the bros.
Okay.
As someone who did have a moment.
You did?
A Joe Bro moment. Yeah, it was like a thing. I mean, not like I didn't like go to shows, and I wasn't really. I just we bought the album. One of the songs was like funny. I started listening to it as like an ironic, like this is funny and this is like whatever, like camp rock time. And then the new album came out and I was like, actually this song Burning Up is like a friggin' bomb.
Oh yeah,
okay,
that's good.
Burning Up slaps, and whatever record that was on, I'm a fan of. And it also, I have a younger sister, and so it was like a thing to talk about high schoolers with, you know.
You
but
guys
so
gotta check out the single Waffle House. It is
okay,
good.
I'll listen. But at the same time, I also, you know, don't really personally, I don't have that much of a connection. But I'm for sure gonna marry. Okay, I'm marrying Taraji. Obviously,
We're all marrying
no question.
Taraji.
No question.
That's a wife right there.
Yeah, lock me up.
Lock her up with Chajari.
I can't decide who I have less connection with, because I also feel nothing towards Blake Lively, and I agree with the like not a green flag. She's like one of those people to me that I'm just like, okay, like she's just there.
Mm-hmm.
But she is hot. But so, I mean,
okay, this is when we were playing the last round and I was talking about the how, and I was like, how explicit can I get?
yes.
I feel like I'm bordering up against that again, but I want to say it anyway. I've always been curious about hooking up with another diabetic person, because one of the side effects of diabetes is obviously high blood sugar content, which impacts the way you smell and the way you taste, that I've like received feedback about, and I've been curious to test on somebody else.
Hell yeah.
Hey, that's as good a reason as any.
Yeah, it's like, this is for science.
I'm here fucking Blake Lively for a soccer team, so you know. I think your thing has way more heart to it.
Yeah. Also,
you know?
the way you just presented that info was very Virgo. It was like, scientifically speaking, my cum tastes different. So,
well,
just
like
curious.
if we go camping, like bugs won't bite you because like I taste sweeter. So I'm like having a citronella candle around, like they just attack me.
Whoa.
So because like, and it, yeah, there's like a side effect if you're in DKA, which is like way too high sugar, that you start smelling like fruit.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I've always been curious.
I love that. Well,
you hear that, Nick? The call's out.
Now
let's swap fruity.
Diabetics, slide into my DMs.
I think
no, please don't.
For
I take that
science.
back. I take it back. I didn't say that.
yeah, like we absolutely do not. I still think, God, now you brought up the soccer team too. I don't know why this is such a hard one for me, because they feel both. Wait,
what soccer team?
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. They own a soccer team. Well, he owns it whatever, but she is like there all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know,
he owns it with the guy from Sunny.
Yeah.
It's Always Sunny. Yeah.
Oh,
I do think I am gonna then fuck Blake Lively. I just a drummer. I have to go with my own. This is the coin flip or whatever. A drummer frontman is a bad person. And I have to live by my own rule. I have to live and die by my own rule, and that means Nick Jonas has to go. So marry Taraji, fuck Blake, kill Nick. Sorry.
So mote it be.
Thought through that.
Wow.
Yeah. This is not a rapid fire sort of situation here. This is a well researched.
Yeah.
This is a place to test out philosophies. Okay. This is not about who the people. This is about how do we make decisions? How do we make impossible decisions? You know?
Yeah, it's a really smart way to do it. Where we talk about killing all three celebrities so that they never want to come on our podcast.
Hang on. This is a little wild. Two quick things, and these can't change your answers. They're locked in. Sorry. This is the fact. All are Earth moons. This group of Leo rising.
Wow.
Nick Jonas with the Taurus moon, Blake Lively with the Virgo moon, with that Virgo sun, and then Taraji with the
Cat moon.
Well, aren't we glad we're marrying her?
Yeah, that
and this releases on her birthday. Okay, and
okay, wow. We love you. I think we all all love
2 days
Taraji.
before my birthday. How fun.
Yes.
It's meant to be OTP.
Love it. Well, thank you for thank you for being such a good sport with this game, Cara.
Thanks for inviting me to play.
Yes.
And
It
thank
wasn't
you.
as hard as I thought.
Yes, you did great. That was a fantastic performance, and you should be proud. Thank you so much for coming on. You mentioned we do have a course coming up. Tell people where they can find your course.
Yes.
And yeah.
So follow me on Instagram at Cara Kovacs Coaching. I'm sure it'll be linked in the show notes. And there is a series of free classes, how to be a business badass that sells with soul. We're going to be going over ethical sales, which I think if you are a coach, please come take it, because likely your coaching certification program taught you something that is directly oppositional to your moral values. And my mission is to change that. It's a free class series. You can sign up at the link in my bio and I'll send it to y'all as well. And then it is a lead in to Business Witch, which is a self-guided, self-paced course. It's going to teach you money work around entrepreneurship, protecting your client's sovereignty, trauma-informed care, intersectional feminism in work, and clarifying your mission and your client concept. And it's under $1,000. Write it off as a business expense and use it to go make more money, please. You can find that at carakovacs.com/course. And I will also send you the link to put in the show notes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And listen to Business Witch podcast. Follow Cara on socials, which of course will all be linked here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This was wonderful.
Yay.
And thank you guys for listening. We love you and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.